Gaming. It's one of the world's biggest and fastest growing industries. And even despite challenges over the last year that gaming studios have faced, the industry is still generating hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue. The industry was estimated to have generated close to $175 billion globally, and is expected to go even higher by the end of 2024. In recent years, Africa has emerged as a very important player in the global industry. So what has caused this rise in significance, and what is the continent's position moving forward? Once overlooked, Africa has slowly but surely been gaining significance in the industry, a trend that has been seen through not just the rise of gaming studios from the continent, but also the investment from international companies into the market. Companies like Riot Games, Activision, Sony, Disney, Microsoft, and more have heavily invested in rising gaming startups from Africa. And it's quite easy to see that they have identified the huge potential that the continent holds when it comes to gaming. Africa's gaming industry revenue was close to surpassing the $1 billion mark in 2023, with more outlets projecting it to go even higher in 2024. But what is quite significant to note is that the huge chunk of this revenue does not come from the big popular video games that we get to hear about every single day. About 90% of it comes from mobile games. Despite the numbers still being lower in comparison to other continental regions like Europe and Asia, it's clear that the industry is growing, and mobile gaming is a huge part of the success so far. This is owed hugely to the massive and fast penetration of smartphones in the continent. The mentioned startups that are rising have identified that as a market opportunity, and over the years, most, if not all, have been developing and publishing mobile games that the everyday consumer can resonate with. According to reports, close to 95% of people who play games in Africa of any kind tend to depend on mobile games as a source of entertainment. But when it comes to video games, it is quite clear that there is a huge gap that will take a lot of investment to ever get close to other markets. Buying consoles in itself is a huge task, with shipped consoles like PlayStation 5 and Xbox still selling at almost double the original prices, if not more, about 3 years after they launched. This is mostly due to the fact that they are brought in and sold at retail by third-party enterprises that have to account for extra costs like shipping taxes while having to register profits. This in itself is a dilemma that might require a whole separate video to address. When it comes to mobile games, they are not only cheaper to buy and play, but also easier to create and upgrade over time. We have seen independent developers create games that gain massive acclaim from the continent and beyond. Many of these games are quite simple and easy to play, as they are made mostly for the everyday consumer. Among the top charts in the last few years are games like Ludo, Candy Crush, fun, simple games. But at the same time, you'll find complex games like Call of Duty and PUBG Mobile quietly rising as some of the top-selling games in the continent. And we've seen their respective studios start to pay attention by establishing servers in African countries to improve connectivity for players. What I tend to notice among these lists, however, is that these are games made a lot more by international studios rather than those based in African countries. So, is there a huge gap that these African-inspired mobile games seem not to be bridging? Yes. With limited resources and an obviously small talent pool compared to other regions, the continent still has a long way to go in terms of producing the best quality games that can command attention from the market and beyond. What is clear though is that Africa's games industry will grow extensively, and the opportunities are there for everyone to take advantage of.